This Prime Minister has demonstrated time and again that he has failed that primary and principal obligation, that promise that he gave to Australians. And there is no end in sight to his incompetence. This government has failed to deter people smugglers. We know under an Albanese-backed government that the borders would reopen and children would go back into detention. We know that they've weakened our Defence Force because they've withdrawn money from the men and women who wear our uniform at a time when we should be investing more into defence. And they've allowed crime to run rampant on our streets. It's why I first announced that a coalition government would legislate mandatory minimum sentences of 6 years imprisonment for acts of terrorism and 12 months imprisonment for the public display of terrorist symbols. These are key priorities of a coalition government. We will stop anti-Semitism in our country. We will stop those racist acts, I promise you, and I promise the Jewish community that we will do that. But we will drill down into a few of these priorities, which are, I think, especially relevant for people in the seats of Bennelong, Parramatta and Reid. Friends, to escape the clutches of the cost of living crisis, we must bring down inflation. Inflation is just another form of taxation. Inflation makes everything cost more. Inflation reduces the purchasing power of your paycheck, and the only way to reduce inflation is by having an economically responsible government that reins in wasteful spending. And that is what a coalition government will do. Now, I don't mean to be controversial today, but I want to ask you this question, and if it's definitive, if the answer is definitive in your mind, then please answer accordingly. But is your life better today? Have you been finding it easier to wake up in the morning knowing that 36,000 new public servants have been employed in Canberra? Can you say, you answered that very well, I might say. Can you say that our country is more united today than it was 2.5 years ago? There is a better way. There is a much better way. We are going to help the Australian people in a way that they haven't seen over the course of the last 2.5 years with a government which has worked against them. We're going to provide enormous support to young people to get into housing. I feel incredibly passionate about this because my own story is similar to yours. I had to work hard from a working class family to provide the deposit to buy a house. I couldn't do that as a 19-year-old in the economy today. I don't want a generation of young Australians to give up the dream of home ownership. And so we've announced a $5 billion fund to provide support to local councils to build infrastructure, to make sure that we can provide additional supply, which is what's required, given the government has brought in 1.8 million people over the course of a 5-year period they're proposing, but 1 million people over the last 2 years, which is a record in our country. We will provide extra support to help young people achieve the dream of home ownership again, and only a coalition government can do that. My friends, we are going to stop reckless spending, not just on extra public servants in Canberra. We are going to make sure that we can bring downward pressure on inflation, because that is the best way in which we can help young families who are struggling with mortgages now, but to help young people get into home ownership as well. Interest rates will continue to go up under the Labor Party if they continue to spend money recklessly. It's what happened under Whitlam, it's what happened under Hawke and Keating, and it's what's happening under Albanese and Chalmers. And we are going to turn it around. The Labor promised that people would have a $275 reduction in their power bill. Has anyone seen that reduction in your power bill? Instead, the power bills of average Australian households have gone up by $1,000. And they will continue to go up and up and up under Chris Bowen. Are there any fans of Chris Bowen in the room, might I ask? That was just a little integrity question to make sure there were No interlopers here. You passed that test with flying colours. That guy, I can tell you, is a wrecking ball through the economy. Chris Bowen possibly could be the worst minister in the Albanese government. But it is a tough race. It is a tough race. Think Tony Burke. Think Tanya Plibersek. Think Anthony Albanese. Penny Wong, one of my favourites. You mentioned Penny Wong. She's in the United States celebrating the ascension of the 47th President of the United States. I mean, she's there as the best friend that Donald Trump's ever had. I mean, is that credible? Have I missed something, or was Penny Wong always a strong opponent and hater of Donald Trump? And now somehow she's a great champion of the Trump administration. It's a government of incompetence and frauds. That's what's happening here. My friends, we've got a lot of work to do between now and the election. Is there any doubt in my mind that we can win? There's no doubt whatsoever. But it is an incredible task. As Susan and others pointed out before, 1931 is a long time ago, but there hasn't been a more incompetent government over the course of that history. A government needs to be voted out by people, but after one term, a coalition needs to be voted in. People need to tick both boxes. And we have set the preconditions for that. We have a united team, which means that we look like a credible alternative. We have worked hard on policy. The Shadow Expenditure Review Committee was meeting yesterday and again today. We are going through, in a professional way, options around policy, which will include responsible spending and downward pressure on inflation, which is essential to getting the economic piece right. We have not only conducted ourselves in a responsible way in terms of our loyalty to each other and our policy offerings, we have also, in doing that, put pressure on a bad government. Anthony Albanese's instinct, his every instinct, is bad. There's no question about that. But we haven't let this government up off the mat for 1 minute over the course of the last 2.5 years. And we should be incredibly proud of that. But it means the job is only half done. The candidates that you see before you today have been selected in good time so that they can connect with the community, so that they can work with great local members, some of whom have been acknowledged. And I really say thank you to the state team here today. To all of you, thank you for your loyalty to us, your support of the candidates, the fundraising. That is an essential element to our success. So we've selected in good time good candidates and people who are going to be wonderful members of Parliament. But our most important asset is our membership. You reflect the values of the Australian people. Through your hard work, your sacrifice, and your desire to see the best for our country, we need to rely on you to deliver us the seats that will help us form government. And when I look around the room, and as I say, there are many friends here, long-standing, who have worked on campaigns, countless days in the hot sun, in the pouring rain, and you have helped deliver us government before. And we're calling on you once again. I've been a proud Liberal since I was 18 years of age, which is a long, long, long time ago. But what I've seen in this party over all of that time is that we rise when the occasion demands. And with your support, there is no doubt in my mind that we can get great candidates elected here in New South Wales and across the country. If we do that, we have the vision for our country. Not only can we get it back on track, but we can provide the best days ahead for every Australian. And with your support, we can and we will do that at the time of the next election. Thank you so much. Please work hard and get this great country back on track. Thank you.